let me ask you guys this question, because you sort of touched on it a little bit. Um, you've been doing the podcast now for 5 years. You've done 70, 70 some odd episodes. Um, from where you started, because I said earlier that I had gone back and listened to that very first episode and sort of your sort of mission statement and like how you had that first discussion. Um, from there till now, what have you learned by talking to all these people that you've talked to?
Dude, I've learned a lot of things that I can't say on record. I'll
Yeah,
say that.
that's one.
Uh,
That's definitely true.
Um,
Um,
but I would say that I've learned that the most people or everybody we've talked to, I feel like, is just trying to push the activity forward. They're just trying to like make it the best they can, do the best job they can, whether it's a judge, an educator, a designer, whether it's us, just me and Mike critiquing stuff. We're just trying to do the best job we can to like deliver information and a product that is sustainable to keep the activity going.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool.
for me, obviously I've mentioned how competitive a lot of people are just at the top level of the activity, members especially, but the staff members get into it, and not into it in the sense of like at each other or the judges, but like they get involved and it's their baby. Like the show is their baby. They care a lot about the kids they're working with all summer. So they can get competitive in that regard, but they're all very, very focused. Like your Colin McNutts, your Tom Monks, your Mike McIntoshes, whatever. They're all very focused on member experience.
Mm-hmm.
They all might have those competitive moments. They all might have, they all want to win drum trophies. They all want to win gold medals. They want to get better and win. But at the end of the day, the ultimate goal is, like Colin said it more than once when we talked to him, like member experience. Like, and he used the more lot tune type stuff they did in this weird season last year with the Reds Roomba, bringing that stuff back and not just playing basic accent tap, like playing some fun stuff. And
Right.
it just like, he's like, it's just all member experience. And are they having a good time? Are we educating them? Are they becoming better people? Are they becoming better performers? And if we win, great. A lot of those people at the top too don't really design with the intent of like, I'm doing this so we can win.
Mm-hmm.
Like their goal is to design a good product for the members. And if you end up, they don't really focus on a drum trophy throughout the season. Like McIntosh said that, McNutt said that, like they're there to educate and give the kids an amazing lifelong experience. And if they happen to win at the end of it, even better, is what I've taken away from talking to those people at the top of the activity in terms of designers and educators.
Yeah, one last thing on judging for me, going back, because I wanted to ask this earlier. What do you guys prefer? Would you rather hear a not so difficult book, extra clean, or a demanding book that's not so clean?
version A, personally. But I'll say this. I believe in the water hose. So like go for broke and like push the envelope to the max you can. But then as the season winds down, I would hope people pick and choose their battles as far as like we only have a finite amount of time to clean everything. This part, we're just gonna have to like we're gonna milk it a little bit. We're gonna water it, but it's gonna be consistent all season. But this, like maybe this one snare break or this one moment, maybe each section, the front, the basses, cymbals, snares, quads, have like a section where it's like, all right, this is going to be our sauce. Like you got to have something that's going to separate you from the rest of the pack. And if we nail it, we're going to do really well. But if not, we might, I feel like that's the BD approach almost too. They design and make the show to a point to where if the members nail it, they have an opportunity to win.
Yeah.
Like they might not get the most reps as other groups, but the design staff is like, we're going to make the show to where if you guys nail it, we're going to be up there. So I think it has to be like kind of a 50-50 of like, I want to hear it clean because in my opinion, clean is the best hype. I know there's a shirt out there around that. But you do have to have something that like sets you apart from the pack at some point. And if that means on finals night it's not perfect, okay, that we swung for the fences. We called our shot, Babe Ruth, and we whiffed, but maybe you called your shot and you hit the home run. So I know that doesn't quite answer your question.
Clean as forever.
No, I mean, like,
I'll
go ahead, Mike.
just throw in before I let Broken City this year. All right, move on. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like, when you design a show or a book, do you just write it with everything on it, or is it like a salad where here's your lettuce and then you just start adding the toppings as you go?
I think that I would write it as talking with the other design staff, like, all right, where's our moment to shine? I do think that people design and write with, all right, we're going to have an opportunity to showcase our kids at some point in the show. Where's that moment? Speaking DCI, especially with the judge change where the judges don't go out on the field anymore, right. There's times where you just got to design and write to lift up and elevate the entire core. But in order to win, especially in drum corps, like all sections have to score well. So that means when you get your moment, like you gotta have the hamburger with the bacon and the cheese and all that on there. You gotta like get it in there. So
here's a very one of my weird sort of out there questions, since we're talking about design. What I see in the activity, both outdoor and indoor, is that you essentially have a handful of designers that are either designing, most everything, and definitely all the stuff that's visible, and being celebrated, and that's having this massive, and then they're impacting and influencing all these other designers, right? That are on the way up. My question for you is, are we seeing everything you guys would like to see design-wise? Is the activity insular and homogeneous, where we've sort of developed inward into this really sort of niche thing that's being put out there? Or because every once in a while you get an Imachi in 2013, you get GMU in 2019, where people are like, wait a minute, you get what Mike's doing with Broken City when Broken City like sort of burst onto the scene, right?
Mm-hmm. All
of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, the parameters, right? The parameters are not what we think they are, and maybe my thinking about all of this has become a little bit stale and too closed with regards to perspective. Or do you think we're in a good place?
Go, Mike.
I go back and forth on this one because Evan and I were just talking to Dan Shack, a friend of ours, just texting him back and forth about this exact topic, like yesterday or the day before. And I think the activity defaults to, and I think a lot of competitive activities, when there's a scoring system and evaluation system, fall into this of a lot of people are looking at, all right, what wins? Okay, what are the winning groups doing? How can we try to emulate in the best way we can at our level in the rankings or talent level or whatever, creativity levels, to implement as much of that as we can to try to get as many of those trickle down points, I guess, from what's winning as possible. And then I think you also have some small elements. You mentioned Imachi in 13, Broken City when they first came on the scene. GMU likes to push the envelope in various ways and try to do creative things here and there. I wish more groups would do that. I think handfuls of groups, like, Broken City is, they've never not medaled. So that's going to say something. When a group comes in their first year of medals and literally has not medaled since then, it's a lot of, whatever.
So here's my question. Just
go ahead.
Because of what you just said. What is it that they're doing?
Who, Broken City?
Like,
or the
these groups. When these groups come in and they introduce a program that feels very like, oh, we can do that. That's new. What exactly are they doing? Because I think you guys have talked before about, like, and you just mentioned it, about sort of trickling down success and copying. Oh, this is what we should be doing now. People tend to copy the moves, but not the process, right? In terms of like creating those things that are really impactful. So what exactly, I mean, as much as you guys can sort of discern from the outside, right, of all these groups. What is, I don't know if it's Michael Gaines who does Imachi, or whoever's involved over there, but, Mike Jackson with Broken City, Dan Shack with GMU. Like, what's Dan doing? You guys know him. What exactly is he doing with GMU now?
This being kind of the design elements of this stuff, whether you like it or not, is kind of subjective to an extent based on the judging panel and who's going to like this or not like this. I think this is a really tough thing. This probably isn't an ideal answer. Is to me really hard to quantify and like spell out like this is what Mike Jackson's doing at Broken City. But this is an art. This is an art form. This is music, and it's like trying to say to me, oh, this artist just came onto the scene. It's something new, fresh, and everyone in the art world's freaking out about it. Well, what about it they're freaking out about? I don't know, but I look at this painting or I watch this show and go, this just impacts me as an audience member or as a viewer of this piece of art. But I think it's not always going to work. The examples we've put out there are examples that have worked. And I think you can look at, and I love Dan and Travis and all them, but you can look at GMU this season that just ended, just very relevant to all of our minds. I think their show was polarizing. I think there were some people, it's one of those shows you're going to watch and you're going to go, oh, wow, that's like fresh. It's new. They're touching on all these different things and doing all these unique concepts and ideas and putting it on the floor in various ways. But I think other people could listen to that and go, And art is that way. And if you look at the recaps, I think some people on the judging panels kind of fell in some areas into the category in terms of music effect. And that's the subcaption that killed them from an evaluation standpoint. They still finishing top 10 is nothing to sneeze at. I'm not trying to say they didn't have a great season, but obviously Evan and I were very high on them at the going into finals, and they finished well, but not as high as we thought they would based on how well they played. And I think a little bit of that is they went a different direction, did something new, and some people weren't all about it. I think Broken City could have very well come out and tried what they tried, and the activity could have looked at it and just been like, we're not that into this. Doesn't do much for me.
Sure.
I think it's really hard to quantify.
I think the difference in people trying to emulate like what Broken City does is, not to sound harsh, but you don't have Broken City's performers.
That's a big part of it too.
Like we actually have talked about a podcast that we're going to do here in the near future with Tim Fairbanks on like the top 5 groups and like kind of why they are the way they are and when they enter the activity. But it's hard to emulate Broken City because people don't have their talent. Like you don't have the confidence that those performers have. You don't have the skill set that those performers have. And you don't have the longevity and career of the designers that the designers have. So to try to emulate that, it's probably always just going to fall short of what they do and what they're able to captivate to the audience. I think RCC is another good group. They have years where they have a swing and a miss, and I say miss figuratively, but they have swing and a hit.
And they missed.
Like, I mean, there are some RCC shows that are just absolute bangers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that Guardians of the Breath, the GIF show in 2012, the 2018 show. But then there's other years where you're just like, I don't really know what that is. But they went for something different. Right. That Steampunk Heart show in 2010, different. The paper, like the airplane show in 2011 is different. Sometimes it just like you knock it out of the park by trying to go for something different. And sometimes it falls short of what you want. I think MCM is a good year this year. Like, they went outside their normal scope of what they do, and like all the credit to them. Like, was it the best MCM show designed? No, but it was different, and they went for it. And I
think that's one of the things that separates those top 5 groups. Not only the design experience and the playing talent, is they will take risks. I mean, Evan and I, obviously we marched for them X. People have been like, well, of course you like X this year. You marched there. It's like, well, go listen to us talk about them from 2018. Or 2017, like right. They have misses. Fairbanks and Jackson aren't perfect. The guys at MCM aren't perfect. But what all 5 of these groups are doing is they're doing different things in different ways and trying to find ways to do things others haven't done before and be creative. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. I think GMU has started to fall into that category of trying different things that the activity is not used to. And I really do think with the staff they've got and the playing quality they've been putting out, they're gonna keep getting better and better. They're gonna keep plugging away at it with new things. Some's not gonna work, some is gonna work. I think Broken City, Evan and I've had this talk about them, one of those 5 groups doing fresh things. Is what they're doing going to get stale eventually? If they don't break the norm of what they broke onto the scene with the types of shows they've been doing, is that going to get stale to the community?
Sure.
They're always going to play well, but from a design standpoint, I think that design staff will pivot. I think they will try different things and continue to put out good products, but that's something you got to look at. And I think it's just, you got to take risks, but don't just try to do what everybody else is doing. Because Evan's right about that whole, you don't have the designers they have. You don't have the talent they have to perform it that way. Look at what you have, try to design for what you've got and who you are, and push the boundaries in the ways that you can.
So let me ask you this about, because you talked about this in your most recent WGI recap video. You sort of, you do a similar thing to what I do, which is you sort of put the groups into pods, right? So you have the top 5 tiers. So let's talk about, because this actually can be a good segue into us talking about just what our experience was in Dayton.
Yeah.
But
welcome.
But one of the first groups we got to go, like something different that Rob and I got to do this week, that is different from like at least the previous years that I've gone, is going to rehearsals. And the first rehearsal we went to was Infinity, because Rob teaches with John Luvera, so we had that connection. Turns out Ryan Lentine was there. I didn't know that. Who I actually taught in drum corps when he was like a little pup. But so Infinity, right? Which I know you guys have a lot of opinions about Infinity this year, but they are squarely in that tier that is just beneath the top, basically in between POW and the top 5, right? The United
6 to 9,
the Matrixes, like those groups. What is missing from those groups, if anything? I mean, I guess missing has a lot of assumptions in it, but why are they not top 5 groups other than, is it all just execution, or are there design things? What do you guys think? Because it's almost like, and especially for the groups that are sort of perennially there, right? Always knocking on the door, but not quite. Maybe they get 5th one year, right? But what is the thing that keeps them from making that quantum leap into
playing clarity,
into their clarity?
I would say consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at those top 5 groups, they're consistently probably drawing the top tier talent because they've been around for a long time. They've had a lot of success. It's the same thing you would think of the Blue Devils, Cadets, Vanguard, Cavaliers, probably in the early 2000s, like Crown now, Blue Coats. Like they're going to attract the top talent because they're consistent as all get out. And I would say that level of performer allows them to take more risk with a bigger room for error. I love what Infinity did this year. I feel like the show was outside of their kind of box. Thinking back to a couple years ago when they did kind of like the circus show. Like it's a little bit more gimmicky, like less depth or nuance to that show, the circus show, than what they did this year, the Continuum show, where you had very clear, well executed design elements that were nuanced and deep, but you also could understand them on a surface level as well. I think those shows that hit both markers are kind of the ones that I enjoy the most. There's tons of WGI shows where I'm like, no freaking clue what that was about. Mm-hmm. But if it's like surface level, I get it. And at the same time, there's like a deeper meaning and like understanding to it that I can also kind of latch onto, whether that's what they intended or not, but it makes sense to me personally. Right. Like those are the shows that stick out to me. And I thought that Infinity show this year was honestly a top 5 show and a top 5 ensemble.
Because I know that's a question that I don't want to say bugs them, but definitely I'm sure is on the minds of all of those staffs about
how do you break through?
How do you break through? How do we get invited into that club? Mike, what were you going to say?
I think consistency is definitely part of it in terms of the talent you're getting to show up, all that kind of stuff. But that kind of just snowballs into how I simplified it before Evan started going there a second ago. Clarity. Like whenever, like Evan and I watched multiple regionals on the stream, we watched finals. Your ears, if your ears are developed and mature in this activity, when the next tier starts.
Mm-hmm.
Like you'll hear the first snare lick they play or the first thing the marimbas will lay down and go, all right, we've entered a new category now. I think it really is now.
Even though the jump is
ahead.
different, to piggyback on what Mike, even though the jump is different, it would be like listening to a clean high school versus a clean drum corps.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different sound. It's a different feel. And I know that sounds super subjective, but it is what it is.
It's something. It's why we say these top 5 groups will take these risks. Some years the shows pan out, some years they don't. And even when they don't, they're still 5th place. Now X has gotten 6, beat by Matrix that one year. It has happened, but it's because the playing clarity is still there.
Right.
Even when X's show misses and they get 5th place, they're still playing at a higher, more mature level with a higher sound quality and clarity than the groups below them. And if your ears are trained, you can hear it. And so it's like, well, the clarity is still just so much better, even if Matrixes or GMUs or whatever show is better than theirs, that's the playing's not there. Like the hands are just not there.
Infinity should have been 5th, in my opinion, though.
I would agree with that sentiment. I think the show, plus they played very well. And I think, the playing differential between Mystique and Infinity was not very, very wide this year. And I thought Infinity show was.
So then let's talk about, since we're on this vein, we can just sort of finish this little.
Well, I have a question about the whole tier thing, though. But
yeah, no, go ahead.
My question about the whole tier thing is, are the Texas lines, are they the sleeping giant? Because I kind of feel like it's not like a lack of playing that holds them back.
Yeah, like you guys mentioned how unbelievably clean you thought Vigilantes was in the lot, at least, and maybe that their tuning did them a little bit of a disservice in the arena. But obviously, like them and Monarch and Rhythmic Force now are like showing that. I mean, because Texas has this amazing infrastructure built around training percussion students. Maybe not all of them value marching percussion, but just sheer numbers,
Dude,
right?
But what's funny is you look at the bios of some of the marching guys, like the snares and quad guys, and they're like just overall musicians rather than just drummers,
But so I mean, it's what's amazing is seeing them come onto the scene, like Monarch within the last handful of years, Rhythmic Force this year, and Vigilantes, like, getting to this place where it feels like, man, you see a bunch of kids that are like going to be marching Vanguard, a bunch of kids that go to UNT there. Yet so the musicality, right? They seem to come on with this like high level of musicality, but then are in those lower tiers,
I said when Monarch first showed up, let me put this quick point in there. When Monarch first showed up, I mean, Evan and I were already doing this podcast when they first started, I think. And I was like, it's about time that Texas had a really good indoor group come out of it. The talent's there, the marching experience at the drum corps level to teach and design, definitely there in the state.
Yeah.
It just always surprised me why they never did have a very competitive group. And now they've got 3 that all made finals. And I think you're going to continue to see those Texas groups get better and better as those well-experienced and educated designers and staff members pick up more on the indoor design game, on the, okay, here's what we need to do for WGI. We're learning year over year. And you're going to see Monarchs and Vigilantes and groups like that from Texas, I think, be more and more competitive.
You feel like that's where the biggest opportunity for growth is for them in terms of solidifying themselves?
Yeah,
I think so.
Getting more and more feedback. Juxtapose a group like Matrix versus a group like Vigilantes. Like Matrix has been around for a long time. That's a lot of years to cultivate.
I remember seeing them 20 years ago here in San Diego when I went to. That was like the last WGI I went to 20 years ago in San Diego. Yeah. And Matrix, was there, I remember them.
that's a lot of years to cultivate information into your design process of like what choices you make for staging, for arranging, for transitions. And the Texas scene, it's kind of been its own animal for a long time as far as just it relates to band and percussion and color guard.
Mm-hmm.
So they are pretty fresh and pretty green in this activity as far as I'm concerned. I mean, there's been a couple outliers here and there, but overall, like, and I don't even think that a lot of those Santa Clara Vanguard people or Paul Rennick people have been able to do, or I don't want to say allowed to do indoor, but allowed to do indoor until like recent years. So that's kind of like they're flooding the market with this talent, and the more they do it, I think the more competitive they'll be, and they'll just get more comfortable with, oh, this is kind of what the judges want to see. And yeah, we want to design a show that is for us and makes sense, but we also in the back of our mind know those buzzwords that we want to avoid them saying on our tapes.
So let me ask you another tier question. The groups that fall in the category of basically trying to make finals, some of them do. Where POW is the sort of demarcation line. Everybody below them, we seem to have this revolving door of like, sure, there's some names that we recognize, but then there's always like new faces in there. And what I know personally is like when I taught at Dark Sky, that's where we lived and breathed. Was, are we going to make finals every year? It was incredibly heartbreaking for most of that time. It was incredibly, amazing when we did. But teaching and designing when you're in that tier is, it's incredibly pressure filled. Maybe not, a lot of that we put on ourselves because it's like, who cares if we make finals, but we do care if we make finals. We want to perform on that. We want to be part of that club. For everybody that exists in that space, right? The Atlanta Quests, the Strikes, the Red Lines, even like Monarch this year sort of slipped, a little bit down into that space. For them, what do you think? How do those groups go from being like maybe they're in, maybe they're out, to being in that next tier, that tier of like we're comfortably in? We just need maybe we can squeeze a couple extra places out, but we don't have to worry about going to Dayton and performing once, like what happened to Quest this year. Oh, I can tell you from living in that space for the number of years that I did, it's brutal.
Dude, it's a bloodbath. Just watching it in the lot,
Like you're sitting there, you're looking at recaps, you're looking at the scores, and you're saying, okay, and then like when the prelims groups come out, groups 1 and 2, you're literally going, okay, we're not gonna beat them, or maybe them. So that automatically puts us in like 6th or 7th or 8th, but we could be 9th, and it just becomes this thing of like, oh, and then Red Wave just got promoted, and who's Rhythmic Force, and Blue Knights, so it's really, really brutal, but are groups putting themselves in that space or not? Or is there something that can be done to make them more comfortable?
I have two thoughts on that, and it's kind of hypocritical of what I was saying for groups taking risks and like the top of the group tiers, like
Sure.
swing and a miss, swing and a home run. But like I feel like if you're in that space, this is all with a grain of salt. I've never designed a show. I've taught world-class indoor, but I've never designed a show or written for a show. But I feel like the things when I observe and I watch and I spectate is, did you make a really bad decision? Did you take 8 marimbas when you have never been above 10th? Did you
have 10 snare drums?
Did you have 50 people on the floor when you have never been above 10th? Like those sort of like decisions can almost make or break it. Did you like an Atlanta Quest situation? And I don't mind to be outspoken about this. Did you shove your pit on side one of the entire tarp when it's your best section of the ensemble? And like when they were designing the show, maybe they didn't know that their pit would be the best section of the design of the ensemble, but after auditions, weekends 1, 2, and 3, you probably did. So I'd be like, well, maybe we should adjust this. And I think that was a design flaw for them. And can you mitigate those flaws or like increase the room of error in the
Give
judge's
yourself more of
mind
a
where
buffer.
like,
Yeah.
I don't want the judge to talk about this for 5 minutes of like, oh, I wish I could hear the marimbas more. Oh, I wish I could hear the marimbas more. It's like, I wish you could too, because they're really good. It almost, when you're in that range, trying to build the consistency feels like better safe than sorry. But at the same time, I would never want to stifle someone's creativity. So
most years when you're in that bracket, I'll say most years, you don't have the luxury of taking a lot of risks. And what I mean is we say the top 5 can take risks because they're going to play so well. When the show doesn't hit, they're probably still going to be in the top 5, maybe 6th if it goes really poorly. If you're in that solidly in finals category of 6th place to like 11th or 12th or whatever, you're still probably going to play well enough, even if you took a risk and it didn't quite pay off, because you've put in the consistency to attract the level of talent to perform at a certain level of clarity to make sure, okay, cool, we're still going to play better than your red lines, than your AQs, then like we're going to be in finals. Even if we take this risk, it doesn't pan out. When you're finishing 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, you need to stick to the bread and butter and understand, okay, we typically finish here probably because we don't have the cream of the crop in terms of playing ability comparatively to the top 10 groups or whatever. Okay, then we need to do things that we know are going to work. We need to be a little more conservative with the number of kids we put in the battery, with the number of kids we put in the front and various instruments, with the way we write, the difficulty that we write. Because I know Vigilantes is a prime example of focusing on playing extremely well, and that's going to carry you a long way. I mean, I don't think that I've just rewatched Vigilantes, Rhythmic Force, and Blue Knight shows like an hour before we started recording this. Blue Knights got in because their show was simple and made sense. I heard the title of it before it started. In my opinion, it's subjective, my opinion.
Sure.
It's called Broken. I understood it I literally had never seen Blue Knight show before in my life. And I sat there and I went, I get it. They played well still, but their show made perfect sense to me, who's a drumhead, sitting down and going, oh, okay, cool. You're all broken apart. And then solos are happening. And then there's pods of 3 playing and the tables are moving. Then they come together in a triangle and then the whole battery plays and stuff. And it all builds on itself. I get it. Simple. There might be more deep meaning, but they check that solid box. And then Vigilantes, the show was kind of meh. It was drums in a gym show to me, but they played so well. They focused on, all right, we're just going to play like crazy and just be clean. And they were 13th. So if you're in different tiers, I feel like depending on where you typically finish, you've got to think a little differently in terms of the choices you make and the risks you take or don't take. If you're 12 to 17, to summarize, just play clean. Like if you play clean and you're undeniably clean and your show is at least checking most of the WGI indoor drumline show boxes of what we've become used to, you're probably going to do really well. But if you make a lot of bad choices or risky choices, I want to call them bad. That's a very definitive term. We'll say risky choices early on in your design process in the season, and you typically don't have the most clean ensemble in the world musically, it's going to be a question mark where you're going to finish at the end, or more of a question mark. And there's all kinds of other factors I think you can look at. Atlanta Quest, I think, is a prime example of just the whole. I think they deserve to perform on day 2. Personally, sure. I think
you guys
them
talked
drawing
about that. Like
second,
one judge expressed a
it was just and it was unfortunate.
I looked a little more into that, but
well, we can get into that later or what. But yeah, that's my 2 cents to answer your question.